What's up? What's going on, everybody? How are we feeling today? How's my audio, too, by the way? I haven't touched it since last stream. We were having issues. Everybody said it sounded better. Hopefully, it hasn't changed. Let me check it on my end real quick. It sounds okay, I think. Okay, so before we get started, we're just going to go over a couple of reminders today. Because as everybody can see out there, Bitcoin has started its October run. And remember, we talked about in October, Bitcoin dominance will probably go up again. Okay? And so that doesn't necessarily mean altcoins have to go down. They just will not pace the same as Bitcoin does. Okay? Usually October is the last hurrah for the Bitcoin dominance run, and then it kind of falls off a cliff after that for, maybe the end of October, and then November and possibly December as well, sometimes into January. So, if we get into, mid-November into December and we haven't seen altcoins really take off yet, it's going to make me wonder if this cycle is going to be extended. Okay? I still think there's a small possibility of that. If we follow the, monetary cycle, right, which is typically 4 years, although it has in the past done 5 or 6 years here and there, there's a possibility that, we do go into next year, but lucky for us, the typical 4-year cycle, right, we're going to know because that's going to show up first. Are we going to see a big altcoin run at the end of this year, or are we not? I still think we are. But we're going to play it out and, just be on our toes and be ready for whatever is to come in front of us. Before we really get started, though, make sure you guys pay your bar tabs. Like the video, as well as hit the subscribe button if you are not subscribed already. As you can tell right below me here, as soon as we get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm giving away 10,000 Kaspa. And that could be worth a hell of a lot of money by the end of this year if we can make it there, okay? So, make sure you hit the subscribe button to be entered to win to that. Entered to win 10,000 Kaspa. Welcome in, Franny, Rayleigh, the What Ups, Johnny Taco, Lexi's here, Crypto Gosu's here, Roy is here, Georgie's Jungle, Kaspa, Michael G. Welcome in, everybody. Make sure you get your comments and your questions in. We'll try to get to all of them. Although, with the last few streams, I haven't had enough time to quite get to all of them. If you do want to make sure to get your question read or answered, just throw the minimal super chat out there, and I'll see it right away. Obviously, you don't have to do that. I'm not trying to take anybody's money. But that will make sure that I actually see your question or comment. So, I want to go over, you guys obviously see the market right now. Most things are in the green. And it looks like, I know I said I think it was like in late August, early September, when it looked like the engines were starting, right, for an Altseason. That doesn't mean that it's going to full-fledged, go to the moon right away. But you could kind of see some double-digit green candles here and there. Even some 20, 30, 40, 50% days for some cryptos. And that, to me, kind of just gives the aura that we're getting there, right? Not fully there yet, but we're getting there. And it kind of gives me hope that we, will top out by the end of this year. We'll see. Time is going to tell, and we just have to kind of play it by ear. One thing I did want to show you guys, though, I'm going to bring up the internet real quick, is the transaction count here. I'm on the wrong page, of course. Or not even transaction count. It's the let's go to the dashboard. The active addresses have climbed drastically from 100,000 to 500,000. Even a little over 500,000, 519,000 since the 26th of last month. So what is that, like 6 days, roughly? 7 days? I think it's 7 days. Massive jump in active addresses. And I think that obviously corresponded with the launch of smart contracts. Transactions, on a daily basis have been going up. We can see them here. We're averaging 23 TPS right now, which is lower than we were when they first launched. But nonetheless, I don't even know if it's more what's the word I'm looking for? If it's better to look at, how many transactions we're processing in a second, because we know we can do up to like 5,000, maybe 3,000 consistently. Or if you're just looking at daily transactions and counting how many daily transactions, that Kaspa is doing. Nonetheless, it's interesting to see here too that the regular transaction count is higher than anything else here. KRC20 is interestingly in second place with 367, and Kasplex on the L2 down here is roughly 100 transactions. And I'm not sure if that's I'm not sure if they're counting this over the last 60 seconds. Okay, so over 60 seconds, we're doing actually quite a few transactions. So the numbers are rising. It's a good thing to see. And remember, Eager Labs is going to launch their Layer 2 later this year as well. And there is some, I think, more reputable projects that are going to be using Eager Labs rather than Kasplex. Like KII, for instance. All of their background transactions are going to be used via Eager Labs. And so business-to-business type stuff that we're not even going to see, but all of those transaction fees are going to go back to miners. They're probably going to do thousands of transactions a day, hundreds a day. So energy companies, big energy companies in the world. So that's good to see. Things are moving up. The petahash is roughly the same hash rate. But in general, more people are using the chain right now. And so that's just going to keep increasing as the days go on. And as the bull market continues, as Altseason launches off, and more people come into the space for the remainder of this year. If we do go look at the top addresses, though, we had wallet number 2 added a ton more Kaspa. Not today, but it was yesterday, I believe. And if we look at, so they almost 21 million yesterday. So they did 2 transactions. One, that's almost 49 million Kaspa added to wallet number 2 yesterday. That is massive amount of Kaspa. God, I wish I had that much money to be able to buy that much. I'm sure all of you guys feel the same. But just think about that, though. I'm going to say this again, even though it's probably like a broken record to some of you guys at this point. But if we were entering a bear market anytime soon, do you think that these wallets, these whale wallets, would be buying 40 million Kaspa, 49 million Kaspa yesterday if the price was going to, go down from here into a bear market? That wouldn't be the best business decision for these big whales who probably know a little bit more about what's going on macroly and what's about to happen than we do. Right? If it's Binance probably has confidants in the big governments around the world and probably has inside information about what is going to happen, when things going to start going crazy, and there's a reason why they're buying. Let's just put it that way, okay? They, I'm pretty sure, are in the know of what's right around the corner, and that's why they're accumulating so much Kaspa. So just keep that in mind, you guys. When there's a lot of people out there that are bearish right now, there's a lot of people out there that say the cycle is going to extend for multiple years, I would just caution that. Because though it's possible, anything's possible in crypto, why veer away from what's happened every single cycle up until now? Last cycle, people said the same thing. Extended cycle. Institutions are getting in. A country, right? What was it? Someone's, I can't think of the name of the country off the top of my head, but it's in South America. They bought Bitcoin, and everyone said that we're going to have an extended cycle. We're not going to have a bear market because nation states are buying, institutions are buying, and guess what happened? We had a bear market, a pretty solid bear market. Same people are going to say the same thing this time around, and maybe one of these cycles they're going to be right, but I don't think it's this one. So just be careful. If you're not planning on round-tripping any of your crypto, and we do get parabolic in Q4, I highly recommend getting out of the market, getting some capital to repurchase crypto in 2026 when we're in the depth of a bear market. Because that is the most fun time in crypto, in my opinion. Right after you've become rich and you get to reinvest some of that money, knowing you're going to make even more money next cycle. That's where the fun comes in. Okay? The parabolic stage is fun, but remember, have fun, but also be on your game to make sure you can get out of the market without FOMOing in, thinking that things are just going to keep going up forever. Because they won't. Okay. Remember this. Another reminder. Phase 1. Bitcoin season. Okay? We already went through Phase 1. I think we're technically in Phase 2, which is Ethereum season. Okay? We're going to have a little bit more this month, at least the first half of the month. Bitcoin dominance go up a little bit. But we're blending Phase 1 and 2 right now. Okay? I think we're more so in Phase 2. Next time Ethereum runs, which will probably be starting in November, the altcoins are going to layer in after that, okay? Ethereum's going to run. It's going to break its all-time high convincingly this next time, I believe. It's going to push through and convincingly, I can't even talk today, get into price discovery and blow out its previous all-time high of like $48,000, $49,000. Maybe it went up to, I don't even think it went up to 5 yet. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Soon as we get into that price discovery and it starts propelling upwards, large caps are going to get confidence, and they're going to start pumping big time. Like all of them, not just a select one here and a select one there, like we're kind of seeing right now. It's going to be all of them. They're going to run for a minute, and then that's going to go into all the mid cap and low caps. Okay? And even while these large caps are running and Ethereum's running, these smaller altcoins should be running as well, just not quite as much yet. Okay? The capital will fall like a waterfall through these stages until we get into phase 4 of pure altcoin season, where everything is just blasting off like fireworks. And that's when it gets exciting. And that's basically when Kaspa is going to run, because it's not a large cap, right? It's just outside the top 50 now. It's basically a mid cap. And so it's going to run in between phase 3 and 4, like really run when it runs. With all of the smaller altcoins this cycle. So be prepared. And in theory, this should be starting, like legit starting in November. Which, for those of you who are not aware of where we are right now, that is less than 1 month away. So, like I've said 100 times now, be on your toes, make sure you have your plan in place, and just be ready. Understand that we're going to get parabolic. Train your brain now so that you are able to take your profits. You are able to act logically and calmly in the chaos so that you can make your money, you can realize your money without round tripping, and you can make a lot of money, okay? You're going to be selling when most people are FOMOing in buying, okay? At a certain point, when the market gets too overheated, you don't really want to be buying crypto anymore. You want to be taking profits. The smart people, the people who actually make money in crypto, are taking profits when the chaos is ensuing around them. And they're the ones that end up making realized money, right? Not just a screenshot of your portfolio when you're a millionaire, but actually realizing that profit into stable coins where you stay a millionaire, right? And your portfolio does not round trip and go back down 90% in the bear market. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to hold some Kaspa through the bear market. No big deal at all. I would probably recommend, though, this is just my recommendation. You guys can follow it or not follow it. It doesn't matter to me. But maybe just take your initials back out just in case something happens down the road. I don't think that that's going to happen with Kaspa, right? Let's be clear. But there's always that chance, and if you just take your initials back out, right? If it does go to zero for whatever god-awful reason, then you're clear and you didn't lose money, right? You at least broke even. So just keep that in mind. Have a plan, stick with it. Now let's look at this. So it's interesting that, let's see here, that altcoin pairs, altcoins on their Bitcoin pair don't seem like they're going to come back to this trend line. It seems like we're running out of time, but in 2017, they came back to this trend line in basically the last week of October, first week of November. So could we have some sort of flash crash that brings altcoins back down to this range, right? That's not what I wanted. that brings altcoins back down into this range on their Bitcoin pairs late October, first week of November. Is it possible? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but it could. Just remember that. And also, that doesn't have to mean that they're going down, right? They're just not performing as well as Bitcoin yet, right? And that will bring this down if Bitcoin's outperforming to the upside or the downside. So we'll see. The further we get, the less likely probably that this is going to happen, unless the cycle's extended and then we open up a whole new can of worms. But we will visit that if we need to after November and December pass. But we'll see. Bitcoin dominance has started to come up a little bit again. I think we're going to see Bitcoin dominance go back up to like 60, 61% maybe. I don't know if we're going to see it come all the way back up to 66. But I believe we're going to probably make a lower high here on the dominance, somewhere in between 63 or 60 and 63% by the end of this month. And then boom, we drop like a rock after that. And that's when we see altcoin season, November, December, maybe into January. Right? I'm just guessing based on history at this point. But that's what I think we're going to see. Okay? And lastly, these are all the bull market peak indicators. Okay? There's 30 of them. Still, to this day, 0 of them have triggered. 0. And so that leads us to believe the cycle isn't over. There's never been a cycle where, a lot of these indicators trigger. The cycle's never ended without a bunch of these triggering, right? I don't think all of them need to trigger, but at least some of them need to start triggering, and 0 of them have. 0. So, what does that tell us? To me, logically, that tells us the cycle is not over, and we still have a massive leg up to go. With Bitcoin and altcoins, by the way. Although I would argue Bitcoin is closer to topping out than it is than anything else. I think 150, 160 maybe is going to be the top for Bitcoin. Remember, like Cathie Wood and a bunch of those like TradFi people, they're all telling you that Bitcoin's going to go above 200,000. Some of them are telling you 500,000 to 1 million. They said these exact same people said the exact same thing last cycle. And guess what happened? It didn't. None of their targets hit because they are absolutely ridiculous in their targets from cycle to cycle. Now, eventually, we probably will get to some of those prices. But with diminishing returns, right, we see it on the charts. It's not likely that we go much above 150, I don't think. And even the fib levels tell a story of 150 being the top. But nonetheless, none of these indicators have fired. None of them have triggered. And so I still feel very safe and comfortable that we have a leg up in front of us, right? Because in that next leg up, Bitcoin going to 150, 160, altcoins absolutely smashing after that, or around the same time, some of these indicators that we see here on the screen are going to start triggering. And that's when we need to get a little worried. That's when we, as savvy crypto investors, need to start honing in on taking profits because we know the top is fairly close, right? And all of the newbies coming into the market because I did this the first time I came into the market, so I know for a fact there's going to be hundreds or thousands of people, tens of thousands of people coming into the market, and hundreds of thousands of people maybe, I don't know. And they're going to be FOMOing in as prices go up, as FOMO ensues, and what they're going to do is be buying the top. They're going to listen to Cathie Wood. They're going to listen to all these big players that say things are going to go up forever, and they laugh at these people because as they're saying that, they are selling their crypto to these newbies that come into the market who think, that things are going to last forever, and they don't understand the cycles at this point. And so they're going to round trip, which is kind of like a rite of passage for anybody coming into crypto. I'm sure majority of you guys have done the same thing in whatever your first cycle was. Hopefully, if this is your first cycle, you have been here at least long enough to understand that profits probably need to be taken in Q4 this year. And hopefully you can, get out with some profits in your first cycle. You'd be ahead of the game from the most people, including myself in my first cycle. I bought Bitcoin, I bought Dogecoin, I bought Ethereum, thinking I was the smartest guy in the world, listening to all these TradFi people, and even some crypto people tell me that the market's never going to go down again. And I didn't know any better, so I just listened to them, and then the market went down again. And it went down again 99% for most of what I held. And it did not feel good. I felt like the smartest person in the world. A few months later, I felt like the biggest idiot in the world. Everybody, who said crypto's a scam and I shouldn't be buying it anyways, was laughing at me at that point. Didn't feel good. So hopefully some of you guys can avoid that rite of passage in your first cycle. All right, let's get to some comments. Let's get to some questions. Actually, real quick before I do, Ski Bum Trading has a chart here of Ethereum and Kaspa and how similar they look over a certain time frame and what we potentially might have in store for us in the coming next 2 or 3 months. Ethereum up top, Kaspa on the bottom. They're not identical, but they're pretty similar. And a lot of people, who are saying Kaspa's dead right now, if you guys go back and look at the all-time chart, which I think I will pull up, the all-time chart looks amazing still, right? If you zoom out, I should say, to Kaspa's all-time chart, that still looks like an amazing chart. Right? If we sank back down here, to the fraction of a cent category, I'd be getting very worried. But just look at that chart. That's what you want to see in a chart. You have some consolidation here. And that's healthy, especially after this massive run-up from 0.001 cent to 20 cents. 20 and a half cents, actually. You're going to have a cool-off period. That was a massive run in a very short amount of time. And I think this cool-off period is actually a spring getting coiled up while everything's happening behind the scenes for a massive run when the market makers decide to push that button I always talk about, right? When they're ready to make their money, they push a button, they release all the sell walls, and crypto flies. And after this consolidation, the spring coiling up. I think it's primed and ready for a pretty large run, at the end of this year. So, what do you guys think? Let me know what you think. Okay. Let's see. Rally says, I can't wait to catch the stream. Well, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. Franny says, good Friday from NYC. Just made myself a Grey Goose Martini straight. No Vermont. Martini Grey Goose straight, huh? Interesting choice. Not a huge vodka fan myself, although I've definitely had my share of it in the past. I'm more of a whiskey guy. Kicking it old school at work with the green tea, I believe. Exhilarating times lie ahead. Cheers to all and coming into the space. Yes, I 100% agree with that. You just reminded me I haven't opened up my drink. One of these days I'm going to have a glass of whiskey on stream again. I started that way in the bar, and then I went to sparkling waters for a while. Once altcoin and I can't even talk today. Sorry, I'm tired. Didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. The joys of life of having a baby. When altcoins and Kaspa start pumping, then I will bring out the expensive whiskeys again for stream. You'll know when things are bullish because the whiskey will come back. Anyone else love the hate Kaspa gets? Well, it's funny you say that because there's this saying, right? First they laugh at you. Or first they, what is it? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you. And then I can't even remember the rest off the top of my head. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, though. Then they join you, and then they whatever it is. But we're definitely in the... well, let's just put it this way. Kaspa is now relevant in a lot of Bitcoin's minds, right? Whether they like it or not, it's living rent-free in a lot of Bitcoiners' minds. And, what that turns into, I don't know. But it's better than knowing what Kaspa is, right? Some of them are doing their research. Some of them are coming out the other end, understanding Kaspa, and even investing into Kaspa. Some of them are never going to turn away from Bitcoin, right? But it's better them knowing about it than not knowing about it, right? Because knowing about it is going to turn at least a percentage of them over to Kaspa. And, we've seen that in real time over the last few months. It's actually kind of good to see. And the people who are hating on it now are probably going to be eating their own words over the next number of years. For Halloween, you should throw on a red bandana and cut off cat surfer shirt. Start off the show stating you are not a cat and ending with you like the coin. Is that so? I think you're talking about what's his name? what is it? The GME guy. Raging Kitty? Something Kitty. I don't think I ever watched that stream, though, to know if he started off and ended like that. I'm assuming he did. That would be funny, though. You know what I thought about, too, was dressing up as the that like turquoise hooded figure that's on the thumbnails of all my videos. I don't know where I would get like a mask like that or anything, though. I'd probably have to have one specially made. I don't know if it's worth it, but it would be cool. Lexi says, hi, did you hear that Crypto Archie said if we hit 20 cents by the end of the year, he would be happy? Also, CG sold 5%. Yes, I heard both. 20 cents by the end of the year just sounds way too conservative to me. You know, we're going to find out how it plays out, obviously, but I can't imagine it just going back up to its previous all-time highs and topping out. That just doesn't seem... Because what is that? That's less than a 3x, right? Yeah, it's like... I think it's less than a 3x. My math is terrible. But, like, there's going to be so many coins doing, like, 50, 40, 30, 20 X's around the same market cap that Kaspa is right now. Even 10 X's. Like, I can't imagine it only doing a 3X while everything else is blasting through the moon. That just... It's hard for me to imagine, but, you know... Crypto's unpredictable. Who knows? You know, it had such a great run in 2023, 2022, 2023, that maybe, you know, it doesn't do the X's a lot of the other coins do. I still can't imagine it doing a 2 or 3X at the most, though. That just seems too small for what I think we're about to see over the whole market. And CG selling 5%. He's mad. I don't know if you saw his X post about he's mad at the developers and the Jonathan and everybody for not, I guess, giving him credit for talking about Kaspa for a while now, and I don't know why he's expecting them to need to know who he is. You know, and I would argue that the recent stuff that's come out about him, you know, shilling coins for money, KRC20s, and some other ones. Do you think the developers want to be associated with that? Probably not. So, I think his reasoning is that he's starting to sour on the fact that they're going to get exchange listings because he doesn't think they're doing a good enough job of marketing and trying to get them. But even then, like, if you're not going to pay for them, then you're not going to pay for them, right? The trading volume needs to be high enough to where exchanges feel like they're going to make enough money off of fees in order to list it, right, for free. But then we go back and look at the top wallets, like wallet number 2. I think wallet number 4 or 5 or 6, one of those 3, is also unnamed and is buying a lot of Kaspa. Like, it has to be somebody of substance, right? I mean, they just bought 49 million Kaspa yesterday. Somebody of substance is buying up a lot of Kaspa, and it would make... I mean, it doesn't have to be an exchange, but, you know, it would make sense if it was Binance or Coinbase. Crypto.com, maybe. You know, no one talks about them anymore. They could come out of nowhere and list. Like, it just... And then you go back to their businesses, and they're not getting paid, right? They're not getting free tokens. And so, it doesn't make sense for them to list until the market is like in a full-blown upswing. Because otherwise I gave this analogy last live stream. Let's take it to another business of selling cell phones, right? If you're buying a cell phone for 10 cents, and you turn around and the market, crashes and you have to sell them for 7 cents or $10. Sorry, you're buying them for $10, and then you have to end up selling them for $7 because the market goes down. Like, that's not a good business practice. So what I imagine is they're going to wait until Kaspa's sustainably above the prices that we're at right now that they're probably buying Kaspa at before they list, right? And so that even if the market does take a small correction in the parabolic phase, then they're still not losing money. If they list right now, then they take a chance of losing money, and businesses don't like losing money. So to me, it makes logical sense why we haven't seen a listing yet. But apparently, to some people, it doesn't make sense. All right, I run my own business, plumbing business. So, I understand that you need to make a profit. You can't just hope the market doesn't correct and you're losing money on every single, person buying the dip on Kaspa on your exchange. It's not going to sit well with them. So, wait until the price gets to the next level, right? When we see that next small leg up, and then I think some listings might come in. But CG selling 5% is not even that much. He probably has a ton of Kaspa. And if I had it, I would play the African guys with the coffin, the sold early video that he has. I would play that for him. But unfortunately, I don't have it streamed up right now. What's up, Gasu? Roy made it in time for the live stream again. Awesome. I appreciate you being here, Roy. CG is a shill. Yeah, he is. I mean, it seems. I don't think he started out that way. But sometimes when you're presented with large sums of money in front of you, sometimes it's hard not to take it, I would imagine. My channel's too small to even... I get emails from people who want to, team up and... it's stuff I've never even heard of before. But I just ignore all those emails. I imagine at some point I might start getting more... I guess larger, companies or coin, launchers of coins, right? Marketing teams that want me to shill coins for money. I don't even get those emails yet. Hopefully they never come because I'm not going to do it anyways. But yeah, it's unfortunate when somebody gets sucked into the black hole of money like I think he did. I would imagine too, somebody like CG will probably... I would imagine he's making so much money this cycle, he will not be back next cycle. If I were to take a guess. Because you can go to his WAP page, and it'll tell you how many monthly subscribers he has in each category, right? And you add that up, he's making like $200,000 a month. roughly, right? Because everybody's paying a different amount. Everybody's not necessarily paying the amount that he's charging right now because some got in earlier. But it was a hell of a lot of money, and I would imagine investing even half of that into crypto. Every single month you're going to be multi-millionaire. So, I mean, good for him for making his money and stuff. But it is what it is, Hopefully nobody got rug pulled by him too bad. Kaspa will surprise everybody. I believe that as well. It's going to be interesting to see what actually happens this cycle because part of me thinks Kaspa is not going to do as many X's as some of the other projects because it had such a great bear market. But then again, I see the vision, right, of it potentially doing more X's than some projects as well because of the catalyst that it still has in front of it potentially. So it's going to be interesting, really interesting, at least for myself, to see how it performs this bull cycle when the spring is finally released and it gets to bounce upwards. Roy says, sending crypto love from Australia to KDK. You're the reason I'm holding tight on to my bag, bro. Awesome, man. Sending love right back to you in Australia. And I think like even what I just said about I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see, if it does a ton of X's or if it does, a moderate amount of X's compared to some projects. But I think long term, if you guys haven't seen my video I did with VJ, my interview, it was not really an interview, it was just kind of a conversation. But he lays out some excellent points about, we're not sure that Kaspa is going to take over Bitcoin at some point, but he can see a path for that happening based on the security budget issues with Bitcoin that nobody seems to care about right now because they're still 10 years down the road, before it comes a real issue. And are those going to get solved in the next 5 or 10 years so that Bitcoin can still operate, right? Or are the miners going to start jumping ship because the fee structure isn't going to be able to support them anymore? And then the security of the network goes down, and who knows what the hell happens from there, but it could just be what everyone says, the bubble is going to pop. Maybe that's when Bitcoin's bubble pops. I don't know. Kaspa has the same issues, right? But it's going to be able to settle transactions via smart contracts on its base layer, right? It's just more about getting adoption so that we can have enough transaction fees to keep the miners happy, right? Everything is set up to be able to suffice the miners. It's just a matter of getting adoption onto the network. Whereas Bitcoin already has the adoption, but it's not going to be able to scale on its base layer like Kaspa can. So you've got kind of the two sides of the coin there. And, VJ mentioned at some point, if Bitcoin can't sustain its miners and security, then you're going to have Bitcoiners jumping ship to find the next best thing. And Kaspa literally is very similar, right? From the ground roots up. Very similar the way it's set up. Very similar in, tokenomics, right? And it's fully decentralized. It's pure money, just like Bitcoin was supposed to be. And so it's logical, right, at least to think that would be the place that these people would find a safe haven in the future if Bitcoin doesn't get its act together. So the next 10 to 15 years are going to be very intriguing. I know that sounds like a long time, but it goes by very quick. Because remember, we're almost through this cycle, and then we're going to start our next 4-year cycle, right? And it's going to seem long, it's going to seem boring, it's going to suck at times. But, hopefully you guys made it through this whole bear market, and you have gotten kind of a sense of what it's like, right? It's not fun, but when you know what the, end goal is, and you know what's going to happen 4 years in the future, then it makes things a little more easy to stomach. You accumulate, and then you get rich. And then you accumulate, and then you accumulate, and you accumulate with even more money, and then you get richer. Right? It's actually pretty simple. When it's all said and done, it's just a lot of people cannot stomach the length of time and the volatility that you have to endure during those 4 years. For me, I love it. I don't really like the boring parts because it can get frustrating. But when you look at it as a whole, I love the volatility, and I know where things are going. I can look out into the future, and I can see what's going to happen, and I will be there for these things happening. And just like Kaspa, we're in so damn early. And if VJ's theory is correct, right, or potentially correct, as a hedge for your Bitcoin, what if, let's say 10 years down the road, what if Bitcoin doesn't get its act together? What if it doesn't have a scaling solution that is able to suffice the miners and keep the security of the network up? Right? Lightning doesn't work because you're leaving the base layer. So anything you do on Lightning Network is not giving the miners anything, right? And so what if in 10 years they haven't solved that issue? The fees get super expensive. The miners are not getting paid enough. What happens? And maybe they'll get it all fixed. Maybe technology advances and they find something that works by then. But what if it doesn't? Kaspa is the next logical token for them to jump into because it's extremely similar, but it's scalable. They've already worked out all of Bitcoin's issues. They just need the adoption. And what if that is the time where mass adoption hits, right? Because Bitcoin is in trouble at that point. I hope Bitcoin figures it out. I hope some of the devs figure it out. But if they don't, that's where Kaspa is going to explode, in my opinion. You're going to have a mass exit into something like Kaspa from Bitcoin if they can't get their shit together. And right now they're arguing over 2 different types of nodes or something. I don't even know what the story is, but it seems like they're inner fighting with each other as well as fighting with the Kaspa community. It's just kind of toxic. That being said, I'm still going to be holding Bitcoin. Because if they figure it out, Bitcoin's already got the adoption and it's, it is what it is. And it may never be peer-to-peer, money. I think that's still a great use case for it. And I think they can both be successful, even if Bitcoin does figure it out. I just think if Bitcoin does not, if the devs do not figure it out, if somebody does not figure out some sort of solution for their security budget and fee structure, then they're going to be in real trouble in about 10 years. Like massive trouble. So we're going to see. We are going to see. Michael says Bitcoin just jumped up 13K and Kaspa went up 2 to 3%. What the hell? It's not its time yet. What other projects are really outperforming Bitcoin right now? You're going to point to a few because there are a few. But the vast majority of the market is underperforming Bitcoin again because October is usually a month where Bitcoin dominance goes up again. Kaspa needs tier 1 listings. I do agree with that. You only have a few weeks left. Altcoin season is here. Altcoin season is starting. We have one more leg up in Bitcoin dominance. Which means altcoins are still going to underperform a little bit. Or at least most of them will. Once we get into November, then we should be in full-blown. Like mid-November, we should be in full-blown altcoin season. And if we're not, then, we figure it out at that point. And if all the other altcoins are blasting up and Kaspa isn't, I would still say we're in altcoin season. And I would just say, I don't even know what I would say at that point. I don't see a scenario where, Kaspa sits at 8 cents while the rest of the market goes parabolic. I just can't think of a scenario where that happens. Because the rising tide lifts all ships. Yo, 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 man from Bogota. Crypto Matt. What's going on, man? What's going on? Rondo, what's up? Jose, what's up? Michael, I'm wondering why Kaspa price didn't go up much after smart contract launch. It's market sentiment right now. All that's doing is laying the groundwork so that when the alt season does officially start going parabolic, then Kaspa is going to have the groundwork laid where people can actually use it for smart contracts, for DeFi, for meme coins, for whatever they want to use it for. I always go back to Cardano too. Now, they went through their first cycle without smart contracts and pretty much just about went through their second cycle without them too, and they've done very well. That being said, they did have tier 1 exchanges because they had, they paid to get them. So that's the difference there. But market caps are the same. Kaspa has better tokenomics, or were the same, sorry, and there's a lot of similarities between the two. As far as market structure, not as far as the project. Obviously, Kaspa's way better. Cardano is mainly, at least 50% centralized. Yeah, I think my base case is 10x from here, because you're gonna have majority of the projects in the range where Kaspa's sitting right now, 2 billion-ish market cap, I think doing a 10x. Right, what is that? 2 billion, 2 billion, what is that? A 10x would be 20 billion? It's what happens when I don't get enough sleep. I'm bad at math anyways, and now yeah, it would be 20 billion. I don't think I have to think that it's going to do a 10x from here. I think there's a solid chance it does more than that, but you know, at this point, from 0.08, that would bring it to 80 cents. Like, I think it can potentially even get to 80 cents without smart contracts. Or I'm sorry, without tier 1 listings. I think. That's just my perspective, obviously. I'm just a guy on the internet. I was watching a guy yesterday saying the cycle was going to extend until 2027. Yeah. Again, there's never say never, but I would caution listening to anybody who's saying that. The monetary business cycles have done, 5 or 6 years sometimes over history. I think there was one time in the 70s, and then I can't remember any other time, but it's happened like 2 or 3 times in the history of the United States, basically. And so it's possible, right? Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the cycle that extends a little bit. But if history is any indication, we should be topping this year in Q4, right? We should be bottoming in late 2026, where Bitcoin will find its bottom again. And then in 2027, Bitcoin will be moving up again. So in theory, maybe he could be right. But it won't be a cycle top, but it would just be, Bitcoin's on its way up again from its bottom after the 2026 bear market, which is my base case because, until something proves otherwise, then why veer from what has happened every single time in the past, right? And again, I will reiterate, if we get through Q4 this year and things never went parabolic, then at that point I might jump on the extended cycle bandwagon. Because, and especially if all those indicators I showed you earlier haven't flashed yet, then maybe we do get an extended cycle. It's always a possibility. I just caution everybody that if we do go parabolic in Q4, I would not listen to anybody who says this cycle is going to be extended. Because at that point in time, we have seen with our own eyes parabolic run, probably a top out, right? If altcoins have done a 10x, 20x, Bitcoin has hit $155,000 by December, then I would highly recommend getting out of the market because next year will probably be a bear market. We could extend, some altcoins could extend into January a little bit. That happened in 2017, or in the 2017 cycle, it would have been January of 2018. I think like the first week or so of January, altcoins, some of them still were running. But that's a possibility. I could see that happening. I just don't see us moving into all the way through 2026 and then into 2027 before at the end of 2027 we go parabolic. I don't see that happening. And I hope I'm not proven wrong, because I want this cycle to be over with. I want my profits at the end of this year, and then I want to kind of reset everything and create my plan for next cycle. That's what I want. I just want this to be over. This has been one of the most brutal cycles because it just seems like nothing's moved. Altcoins have been god-awful for the most part. Yes, Georgie, El Salvador. That's right. Again, I didn't get much sleep last night, so I can't even think of countries adopting Bitcoin, let alone math or anything else right now. It didn't go up to 5K yet, you're right. What? You talking to me? What didn't go up to 5K? Oh, Ethereum is probably what you're talking about. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I know it passed barely its previous all-time high, but its previous all-time high was like 48, I think. So, yeah, maybe. Yeah. So it was probably like in 48 something or 49. Didn't hit 5K. It will, I think, in the next month. Riley says he's going to watch later because his earbuds ran out of charge. That's okay. We won't hold that against you, Riley. What indicator are you looking at when taking profits, or what's your plan for profit taking? So people said it lasts 4 weeks max. What do you think? Well, like the 2017 cycle lasted more than 4 weeks because it ran through November and December. And even a couple of coins ran into January. Last cycle was weird because some coins topped in like March or May, was it? And then over the summer, things corrected back down drastically. And then some came back in November and made a new all-time high. And that, if you're counting something like that, it was about a month for that last leg up. But as far as one of the indicators that I really look at is, let me see here, where is my internet? Dun, da, da, where is it? It's the Pi Cycle top indicator. When that flashes, usually Bitcoin's topped already. But that doesn't mean altcoins are done necessarily. So it's kind of like a nuanced thing. You got to kind of just... but altcoins will be pumping at that point too. So it's like, maybe start DCAing out. I'll let you guys know when I start to sell, though. So as long as you're watching my videos, you'll at least know what I'm doing, like in real time. So hopefully that helps somebody at least. And I'm not going to charge you for it either. It's all free. Because I'm a man of the people. On my way says, since Bitcoin determines the trend of altcoins, how will altcoins be able to outperform Bitcoin if, for example, Bitcoin drops below 100K during Altseason? So what happens is money flows into Bitcoin first. Okay, that's where you get the Bitcoin dominance, like we've seen the last number of months, go sky high because all the money's flowing into Bitcoin. And then what happens is when Bitcoin gets close to a top, you've got, I would call them quasi-degens. They sell their Bitcoin and start buying Ethereum because they're going to get a better return on their investment, right? They've already made all their money in Bitcoin. The money starts flowing into Ethereum. Then it starts flowing into, Ethereum will pump first, and then some big caps will start right after that. Money starts flowing out of Ethereum into big caps, and then vice versa, and all the way down the waterfall levels. And so there's a lot of new money coming in, but there's also a ton of money flowing out of Bitcoin and bigger cryptos into smaller cryptos, which is why Bitcoin dominance drops and all the other coins start outperforming. It doesn't happen for a very long time, right? So don't expect it to go for like 6-7 months. Like Man from Bogota said, sometimes it's only 1 month, 4 weeks. So all of the money that you saw pouring into Bitcoin while Bitcoin dominance was going up starts flowing out of Bitcoin into smaller projects, and that's where the altcoins, Bitcoin's price will start dropping, altcoins will start rising, and that's where the divergence happens. A mixture of money that was already here and new money coming in, buying meme coins and stuff. Yeah, CG for the first time sounds worried. Well, I mean, it is what it is. CG's not in it for long term, though. He's in it to make as much money as he can this cycle. You're still going to, like I said, I don't know if Kaspa's going to outperform, for the rest of the cycle like some other coins will. But it's going to go up. And CG probably just wants Kaspa to 100x like he said it would for months and months and months and months, or years now. And Kaspa's not going to 100x this cycle. And so he probably wants to put it into a degen meme coin that he can show to his audience and make even more money. I would imagine. Because, yeah, he was putting up thumbnails of like $20, $10. It's funny, a lot of influencers, YouTubers, started, with $20 or $30 Kaspas on their thumbnails, and now they're down to like $1 on their thumbnails. And I know things can change, like people can change their mind based on what's happening in the market, but it just shows you that a lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about either, but lump myself into the same crowd. But I've been, pretty consistent since I started of $1 to $3. I think we can hit $3 if we get some tier 1 exchanges. Maybe that's too bullish. I don't know. But I've also said like it could top out under $1 too. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know what's going to happen. Nobody's telling me anything. I wish they would. Yeah, Kaspa, it's up I'm assuming you're talking about Kaspa, up 40,000% all time. So, yeah, you got to remember how much it outperformed everything. We were printing money with Kaspa back in late 2022 and all of 2023. It seemed like it was a no-brainer. It was just going to go up forever. And, no coin goes up forever. It's going to have to correct and go and consolidate for a while. And that's what it's been doing. I mean, for instance, look at Sui. It went from like 40 cents to $5, came back down to $3, and now it's consolidating for a while now. Not as long as Kaspa, but it's consolidating. Like every coin does it. Which is kind of why I like to diversify my portfolio anyways, because then you've got some other things that run while, some of your other projects are consolidating. So you kind of get, other coins that hold your portfolio up while other ones consolidate, and then those ones will consolidate while the ones that have been sitting for a while start to move again, and they kind of help each other. Sugar Lump is drinking ginger ale, LFG Kaspa. JC, even the great Michael Saylor said positive things about Kaspa. Are you sure about that? He mentioned it by name? Please, private message me on X with that info, if you have it. Because I have never seen him actually mention Kaspa by name. I've heard him mention, like, maybe there's some other blockchains out there, that can facilitate moving stable coins around better and stuff like that. He's kind of gone away a little bit from being maxi. But if he's mentioned Kaspa by name, I would love for that reference. I could have missed it, but I feel like if that's the case, then everybody on X would have been going crazy posting and reposting that. Reminds me of a Blade Runner background, yeah. Jose, did BTC devs pay for exchange listings? Did they do marketing? Isn't Kaspa good enough to sell itself? Yes. Yes, Kaspa is good enough to sell itself. BTC devs did not pay for listings. But remember, Bitcoin was the only thing that was basically there at the time. So, like, any exchanges that popped up, they're listing Bitcoin no matter what, because it was the only thing there. And then you had, like, XRP come about. Ethereum came about a couple years after. And so exchanges listed every single crypto no matter what, because they wanted the trading fees, and there literally was like 5 or less at the time. But the community does the marketing for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's never had paid marketing, which is exactly what Kaspa's doing, right? And people are expecting Kaspa to hit $1 trillion market cap overnight, without the painful growth portion of what needs to happen. And that's just not going to happen. It's literally acting as... It's going about its life as Bitcoin 2.0, right? That doesn't mean it's going to be Bitcoin 2.0, but everything that it's doing is following Bitcoin's tracks, basically to a T, right? Except it's more scalable. So I think the community, I think, does a good job of marketing. They are like a swarm of damn bees on X. Anytime anybody posts anything, they are right there in droves. And I think, was it Kaspa bot page? I'll have to go and look. There was an X page that popped up that's going to start actually doing some marketing. It's part of the community, obviously. I'm not getting paid, but they're going to start, I guess, doing some sort of maybe crowdfunding marketing, which I'm sure Bitcoin's done at some point too. But like, there was no legitimate marketing team for Bitcoin. It just existed, and I mean, think about it. It took, 15 years to get to where we are right now, adoption-wise? So, sometimes like the turtle and the hare, right? The turtle wins the race, but the hare might move ahead in the short term, right? Or the rabbit, for those of you who don't know what a hare is. So the rabbit races the turtle, and the rabbit's like ahead, from the get-go, because it's just faster. But, and in crypto terms, it's paying for marketing, it's paying for exchange listings, it's paying for adoption, right? But that doesn't come without potentially major issues, right? And so, in that reference there, the rabbit gets off to a better start, but it gets distracted, and the turtle just keeps plugging away on the same path, slower, but it doesn't veer from its course and ends up winning the race in the long run because the rabbit gets too distracted and goes, off track and doesn't fulfill what it thought it was going to fulfill by the end of the race. And I think something like Solana is a good example of that. It has major issues. It goes down, right? It can't handle enough transactions in a certain 24-hour span without the network going down. And Kaspa just handled, I think, 3 times as much flawlessly without any downtime. So when you look at long-term, that's why I invest in Kaspa, because I think long-term it's going to be extremely valuable. But in the short term, right, I still think that it's going to have a pretty decent bull cycle. But I also invest in things like Solana. I invest in things like Sui and, a few meme coins and some smaller interesting projects that I like as well, because VC money can pump a crypto way faster. And what I do is I wait for those pumps and then I sell. And you can make a lot of money doing that, right? I bought Solana at $8 in the bottom of the bear market in 2022. Everybody said it was dead. And I looked at on-chain metrics, and that told a different story. It was not dead. In fact, the on-chain metrics were growing. And so I was like, something doesn't line up here. Everybody on YouTube, everybody in the media says Solana's dead because it was, at least out in the forefront, connected at the hip with FTX, which basically rugged everybody. Even though they weren't really connected, they I think, what's that guy's name that went to jail? I can't think of his name. That nerdy guy who was running FTX. That was just his favorite blockchain. There wasn't really any actual legit connections between the two. And so when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a bunch of Solana at $8 because everything still looks the same to me. and the metrics are actually going up, and see what happens. And guess what? Solana's at $250. That's a massive increase in price, for those of you who are wondering. I see the same thing with Kaspa. Obviously, Solana's VC runs, so you're going to get some quicker pumps sometimes. But Kaspa, the metrics are going up as of now. Smart contracts are out. We'll watch it through the bear market and see. But everybody says Kaspa's dead now. Everybody said Solana was dead at $8. That's usually the time you want to buy projects. Especially projects that are doing something that no other project can do, like Kaspa. So that is my TED Talk and my 2 cents to all of you guys. I bought Sui at 40 cents. It's now $3.50. It was $5. Yeah, and you guys see my last video, Dag Night, where Michael Sutton himself said that 2027 is too far out in the distance, and over his dead body, he's going to have that upgrade done before that. Which means sometime in 2026, maybe early 2027, because I think November 2027 was the date that he said that they're going to beat. And for those of you guys who don't know, from what I understand, Dag Night hard fork is not bringing the blocks per second up to 100 immediately. But what it does is it lays the groundwork, right, tech-wise, for them to be able to reach 100 blocks per second. So when that upgrade's done, we'll probably still be sitting at 10 blocks a second. But what that's going to do is allow them to probably advance from 10 blocks to 32 blocks, which is their next milestone, I think, fairly quickly after that. And then once everything is set at 32 blocks a second and things have been running consistently with no issues, they'll probably move it on to 100. But Dan, no way CG was making 100 or 200K a month off of his courses. Go do the math. Go find his WAP page and look at how many maybe it wasn't 200K. It was a lot of money though. Like, it was enough money to where my mouth dropped. I thought it was 200. Anyways, it doesn't matter. He was making a ton of money. But go look at his WAP page and add up all of his, subscribers to his VIP group based on what they're worth, what he's charging. And you can kind of get an estimate of, and that's only through that, right? He's probably making money shilling meme coins. He's probably making more money, who knows what else he's doing. He's making money in crypto. So, I'm just talking just about his VIP membership. He's making quite a bit of money per month. And all the info's out there for you to look at. It could be 20K. I might have just added on another zero. But either way, 20K a month is a lot for logging onto YouTube once a week and making a video. Trixie says, AI told me that 10/24 is the most likely Binance listing date with 10/31 second. Most likely ghost tag. Interesting. There's definitely that possibility. That's the very end of October. I actually think that they're going to list in November. But that's just me guessing. AI is pulling together a ton of data to make that prediction, so they probably know more than I do. KII looks like silent. They haven't launched yet because they're waiting for Eager Labs, from what I understand. So that's why you haven't heard much of them. They want to launch on top of Eager Labs, and then they're going to have they're working behind the scenes right now on their infrastructure so that they can start using the Kaspa rails, at least for some things, like right away, I think. And I see Kaspa Queen is here. Olive Chain is also a KII initiative, I think, which will be Eager Labs. Needheart says, I sold it. Again, I need the sell early Crypto Galaxy video with the coffin. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Needheart. He said I botted more CAD. Cass. So I have no idea what you're saying there. You sold what, and then you bought more Cass. Maybe we'll wait to play that video then. Franny says, what other projects do you like? Say, Sui, Arrow. I have a big bag of Sui because my initial thought process on that was that it was going to be kind of like the Solana this cycle as Solana was last cycle. And so far, it's done pretty well. It's kind of in a consolidation phase right now, which is good. Waiting for its next leg up. Say, I think, is good. I don't own any. I'm staying out of it because I don't want to really add any more layer ones to my portfolio at this point. Kaspa and Sui, and then Solana, like I said, relatively, I didn't spend that much money on Solana back at 8 cents, but it's worth a ton of money now because it's obviously $250 now. So it takes the second place in my portfolio just based on how much it's pumped over the last few years. And I will be selling, pretty much probably all of my Solana this cycle at the top or around the top. I still think Solana can, I think at the most get to about 1,000 if we have like a really good alt season. That being said, if you would like to know, I'll give you a little sneak peek into my portfolio real quick. Some of you guys already know my top few coins, but I'll give you a few others that I invest in that you may not know about. I'm not telling you guys to go buy these coins, but I'm just giving you a little heads up. So Kaspa is my number 1 holding. Solana is my number 2 holding, right, based on how much it's pumped. Sui, number 3. I bought it at 40 cents, remember, and it's now $3.50. Bitcoin's my number 4th spot. My Bitcoin, once we get into like the 140 range, I'm probably going to sell my Bitcoin for a lower cap coin or multiple lower cap coins, so that I can try and get some more X's out of my Bitcoin holding. Okay. Number 5 is Pepe, because I think Pepe is the Shiba of this cycle. I've been holding Pepe for a very long time. And when I say very long time, I think it's only been out for about a year. or maybe a little over a year now. Two coins that you guys might not have heard of before, though, that I'm holding. One of them is a layer 1 called Peak, P-E-A-Q. And it's a real-world asset. I think it's called something else, but they're technically real-world asset projects. And they already have a ton of projects that have launched on their chain. And it hasn't really pumped yet. Although over the last 2 days, well, actually the last 30 days, it's up 100%. So it has pumped a little bit. But I don't have a huge allocation to it, but I think it's going to do very well this cycle. That's just my opinion. And then another one that you guys may not have heard of is Zeus. Zeus Network. And what that is it's allowing Bitcoin liquidity on the Solana blockchain. And I still think Solana is going to do very well this cycle. Obviously, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. When you combine the two, I wanted a piece of merging the two, right? So Zeus is basically a project built on top of Solana that allows you to bring over Bitcoin liquidity to Solana chain. And yeah, DPIN, Beebs. Yes, DPIN is what I was thinking of, which is kind of real world asset like, but DPIN is the correct name. So thank you. I think, and Peak is only like a $25 million market cap right now. It just grew a little bit. No, 165 million. So it's still fairly low. I think Zeus is like 25 million. Come on, push the button. To touch the screen, it doesn't push. Zeus is now 42 million. So those are two projects that I don't own a ton of it, but the market caps are pretty low, and I see a very good narrative out of both of them. And Zeus has a lot of the same backers that Solana had, and so I feel very good about that. They're going to want to pump the shit out of their coins with the VC backing. And then Peak has a lot of VC backing as well. And they have, I think, some decent exchange listings, but they don't have a couple of the larger ones yet. So you still have that pumping ability. Yeah, Beeb, Say is a good coin. I do not fault anybody for investing in Say. I think it's going to do well this cycle. It's just I already have enough projects, and I'm Say's market cap is around, I think, where Kaspa's is. And if I'm going to buy another layer 1, then I want it to be a very small market cap, because then there's pumping potential. If it's got the same market cap as Kaspa, I'm just going to buy Kaspa. But remember, every single one of these projects that I'm talking about, I'm selling out completely at the end of this cycle, except for Kaspa. I'm keeping a portion of Kaspa because I do believe in it. Buster says, hey, hi. Drinking my Buster Bubbles, a sparkling Shiraz. Is that really what it's called? You have a drink named after you? Oh, you can buy it using Kaspa. Interesting. It's called Buster Bubbles. Let us know where you can actually get it at. You got to at least shill your website. Richard says, how high will Kaspa go at the end of the year? That is a good question. I I'm sticking with my prediction from $1 to $3. If we don't get any tier 1 listings, which, guys, I think at bare minimum we're getting Binance. I think. And you've all seen my reasons. You've all heard my reasons. If you haven't, go watch my latest Binance video, which is not too far down the list. If you go to my YouTube page, it's just got a big old Binance symbol on the thumbnail. Give you my reasons why. And I believe they're very logical reasons. Johnny, I'd be stoked with 50 cents. Hey, if all we get is 50 cents, the motto I like to go with here is you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, right? I think what was his name? The miner guy channel when I started mining back in the day. I can't think of his name off the top of my head because again I can't think of anything without a whole lot of sleep last night. But somebody in the comments will know. He said that a lot. You get when mining, right? You're spec mining, and he's like, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. You hope for the best, but sometimes you don't win. If we get to 50 cents and that's all we get, we just got to get with a grain of salt and be happy that we made money. Because and that's another reason why price predictions sometimes are not anyone's best friend, because you're expecting something in your head, and if you only get, half of that, then you're going to be discouraged. Isaac says 80 cents with no listing, 2 to 5 if we get all tier 1 listings. Very possible. And again, you guys, remember that things happen, things flip on a dime, right? Sentiment flips on a dime, and that's not an understatement. You could be you could go to bed one night and Kaspa's at 8 cents. You could wake up the next morning. This is in a parabolic phase. You could wake up the next morning and Kaspa's at 16 cents, right? It doubles overnight while you're sleeping. And then it'll pull back just a touch, and then it'll shoot up again. Things happen really fast. And then before you know it, it'll all be over too. Before you even know it. You're going to barely have enough time to even get parabolic and euphoric before it could be all over and we're on to the next cycle. Because basically in crypto, you wait almost the full 4 years before you get like a month or two of alt season. That's how it goes. If Kaspa even follows what DOT did last cycle, that'd be pretty nice. I don't even know what it did. I was never a fan of Polkadot. Although I did own some back in the day when it was new. I think the founder or one of the lead guys in Polkadot's like a child molester, and or like a sex offender, and he's like out in the open about it, like he doesn't care. Which does not sit well with me at all. Especially if you're just like, yeah, I like little kids. It's a bad look. And a disgusting human, in my opinion. And then now they have that little like flashy purple flame or pink flame as their icon. to try and get people to look at their project. What did Polkadot do last cycle? Let's just compare that. And then I got to go after that, guys. We've almost been on here for 2 hours. Lexi believes that wallet number 2 is 200% Binance. Different addresses. What? Wallet number 2 is 200% Binance, different addresses. Let's see, Polkadot. I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see the internet with me. So you don't think I'm lying to you. Let's see here. Wow, it's... Polkadot's only up 53% from its all-time low. Ew, that is not good. It's basically flatlined back to where the exact price where it launched. That's not a good sign. If anybody of you are investing in Polkadot, I would highly recommend that you just exit it now. $53 billion market cap at the top of last cycle. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. That's 15x from here. Don't quote me on that. No, that's a 20 something x, I think. No. Yeah. 25x. No? I'm bad at math, don't laugh at me. 25x? Either way, I'd be good with that. You guys be good with the 25x from here? You get what you get, you don't throw a fit? You know how long it takes to get a 25x in the stock market? If you're investing in the S&P 500? You'll probably be 6 feet under before you see that. So, anyways, I'm going to take off. I appreciate everybody for coming in and hanging out. And just remember, we should be on the verge of like a full-blown altcoin season moving into next month, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. So be on your toes, have your plan, make sure that you know what you're doing so that you can easily move your crypto around, take your profits, get out of the market with what you want to get out of it with, while everything else around you is in chaos. Make sure you're ready up here, because it's going to come at us fast and it's going to end fast. And we don't want to miss it. I will let you guys know exactly what I'm doing in real time to try and help anybody out who's unsure. Right? I'll let you guys know when I sell and what I'm selling, what percentages I'm selling, when I start to sell. I haven't sold anything yet, right? We haven't had any of these indicators fire off yet. So, in the meantime, continue to pack your damn bags before it's too late. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.